2 summers ago, on my way home from an out-of-town day trip for my son's birthday party, we went to a water park and decided to go to dinner in a really small town after getting slightly lost due to Google Maps being crappy. After dinner, we noticed across the street was a county fair, so we checked it out for fun. It was getting dark, and the fair was nearly over, and we caught a tractor pull that was about to begin. We'd never been to one, so we thought it might be a fun way to top off the birthday trip. We sat on the bleachers and watched for a while. There was a lot of families there watching, and also a lot of drunk people as well. I didn't think anything of it. I had my 16-year-old son with me and a good friend of mine who is a strong guy, so I felt safe. We decided to leave the fair before the event was over, so we wouldn't be on the road with a bunch of drunks. We walked back to the restaurant, which was now closed, and got into my car and set off for home. We backtracked, using Google Maps directions. We got onto the road that I recognized would get us back home. I noticed that as soon as we pulled out of the restaurant, there was a car behind me, the only other car on the road, as most of the town inhabitants were most likely at the fair or at home. The car followed us onto the road we took to get home, which I found odd because it was a desolate back hilly road with a wooded area on either side. I thought maybe they were from out of town too, and were using the same road to cut across to get to the interstate, as it was summer and many people road trip. I still felt uneasy about it, but decided to just get off this podunk road onto the interstate as soon as possible. As we were driving on this hilly back road, it was fully dark outside, and I drove pretty slow for fear of a deer running out in front of us. The car stayed right behind me. I slowed down, hoping he would be annoyed enough to pass me for going too slow. Instead, he drove up right on my ass and started tailgating me. I could see that it was only one person in the car, and the windows were tinted. I dared to speed up, wanting to get on the main road or interstate as soon as possible. He stayed right behind me, going fast or slow as I was, not bothering to get off my bumper. I knew without a doubt we were being harassed now. I was getting scared. I had my son in the back seat, and it was his birthday. This was unfair, and I kicked myself for going to that tractor pull. Of course, I couldn't have predicted any of this craziness. After what seemed like ages, we got onto the interstate. I hoped it was just some local jerk who wanted to scare some city folks, but I somehow knew it wasn't that simple. As I feared, he followed us onto the interstate. Even on the interstate, he tailgated us. I slowed down, hoping that he'd finally pass us, but no luck. I sped way up, and he caught up and stayed way too close. Unfortunately, the interstate was quiet on our side, and I had no choice but to keep going. My friend was very angry and ready to fight if necessary, but I wanted no part of meeting this guy face to face, especially with my birthday boy in the back seat. I just kept going and prayed not to get a flat tire. At one point, I got scared enough to lay on the horn while driving, hoping the noise would dissuade him. It worked. He pulled over onto the shoulder, and I saw him shut off his headlights. I was relieved at first, but we found it odd that he killed the lights. After that, we sped up, and I was flying for home. The sooner the better. About 15 minutes passed in this blissful uneventfulness. We talked about how scary that whole ordeal was, and eventually started feeling relieved to put it all behind us, literally. We were about 25 minutes from home, and there were a couple of vehicles here and there, which made us feel less alone on the road. At one point, when the cars thinned out and we were once again alone on the road, something happened that I could not believe. Right next to us, slightly behind us, headlights, bright headlights, suddenly burst on. He had been following us the whole time with his lights off, staying carefully behind us and waiting for his chance to scare and surprise us. I almost started crying, but at this point I was too angry. This guy had been following us for an hour now. Far ahead of us, I saw the taillights of a semi-truck. I sped up quickly, with the stranger in the car next to me, trying to keep pace with us from the fast lane. I think he realized that I was trying to catch up with the semi, so for the first time in this insane chase, he did something truly dangerous and swerved at my rear panel, a pit maneuver, trying to push us off the road. I sped ahead and missed him, clipping me by inches. I finally reached the semi-driver and got close, hugged the back of his truck as much as I dared, and leaving no room for this jerk to cut me off. We went this way for a little while, and I truly believe this semi-driver knew something was wrong, because after so long of seeing this crazy driver swerving at me and trying to get in front of me as I would not let him get over, the semi-truck driver did something that I will forever appreciate him for. He swerved over into the fast lane and dangerously cut off the stranger's car and then tapped his brakes. I took it as my cue to speed ahead from the slow lane and try to lose this creep. I sped up to 85 or maybe even 90. My hometown was straight ahead, and I took a sharp left onto a back street that led to the main road and stopped in a busy, well-lit gas station. Luckily, there was a cop there. My friend got out and explained the whole situation to the officer, and he called for other cars to search for this guy. We left the gas station after calling a friend of mine to follow me to the parking lot, where I stowed my car overnight because I did not want the guy to possibly find my house by recognizing my car. I watched my back for quite some time after that. I always notice that make and model of a car in white if I see one on the streets. Thank goodness we got home safely. Now the most disturbing thing about this story is that the small town it took place in is hometown to one of the biggest mental health asylums in the Midwest. This thought had kept me awake for more than one night, and I still check the papers for stories of escapees. This happened to me and my friend Sam 3 winters ago. We liked exploring nature and walking around outside, and our friends had recently introduced us to this beautiful place in Wisconsin, Grant Park, for anyone familiar with the southeastern Wisconsin parks. We had visited with them 3 or 4 times, every time we had gone with them, and it had been a pleasant trip. We walked around and got to see some beautiful views of Lake Michigan, sat on the crooks of trees, and then talked about books and games and other things. We had been starting a new game of Hunter, The Darkness, a tabletop RPG game like Dungeons and Dragons, and we were using the park for scenic inspiration. It was great, for the purpose of storytelling. She and I were both 5'2" to 5'3" females. The first time she and I went alone was around dusk to take some pictures that we could not Photoshop for the game. This park is massive, and there are many bridges, footpaths, and winding roads throughout. We were walking over a bridge that sat against one of the roads, with dense woods on either side. As we were crossing, a car drives by and rolls the windows down, and some guy leans out and yells, "Hey," at us. We were both startled and jumped, but dismissed them and continued walking across the bridge. Less than a minute later, the same car comes back driving in the other direction, and this time, the driver's side window rolls down, and the driver, who's another male, calls out, "Hey ladies, come here." We picked up our pace, and the car drives away, and right as we're about to hit the end of the bridge, we see the car come at us again from the original direction. We then book it up into the trees up the hill, and we hear the car stop, and 2 men start yelling for us. We continued running, and hid in the dark for 15 minutes or so until they left, and then we ran back to the car and left the park. You would think that we would avoid the park after that, but once we had gotten out of there, and properly warmed over our hot chocolate from Perkins, we had gotten a good laugh over having been so scared. We went back to the park with our male friends a few times, and nothing even remotely scary happened. So she and I decided to go back, just the 2 of us again. Sam and I often spent our afternoons and early evenings outside exploring and doing some hiking, and sometimes just sitting outside in the parks and talking. We head back around dusk again, and with the camera to take more pictures, especially since we hadn't gotten any more shots since we wanted to the first time. Now obviously, looking back on this, we both felt incredibly foolish having gone back, alone, and around the same time in the same place. But as I said, we had gone a few more times with our male friends, and even sometimes we just had one male friend with us, and nothing had happened, so we thought we were just being skittish. Anyways, we went back, and we were about to walk over to the same bridge, when the car rolls by, and you guessed it, the windows roll down, and some guy just yells out some random noise. This time, we don't wait for them to drive around. We duck into the woods and start walking back toward the pier. We figured we'd abandon the other photo spot and just explore the pier and take some lake shots. It wasn't really what we were looking for, but we figured if we made it in time for the sunset, which is almost all the way down, we could take some pictures over the lake just for fun. The way that the pier is set up, There is a long thin road from the top of one of the giant grass hills, down and around the curve, and into the parking lot. The pier is at the end of the right side of the parking lot, about 200 yards away. If you walked from the near pier down to the right side of the parking lot, there was a little bridge that led into a development with a tennis court that sat next to a preserve. So we begin walking down the road to the lake when the same car from before drives down into the parking lot by the pier. They didn't say anything as they drove past, but we still decided to slow down and decide whether or not we wanted to continue down the pier. The car turned around in the parking lot and came back up the road. The car reached where we were and stopped, so we immediately turned and started walking down the hill. All the windows rolled down, and we saw that there were 4 guys and 1 girl in the car. They said, "Hello," and Sam and I turned and waved. One of them said, "Oh, hey, you're cute," and the other joined in and says, "Hey, yeah, wait for us." Now mind you, we are 2 small females, but we were also super bundled up in large winter coats and hats. You could barely see our faces or our shapes. We'd been ignoring them, and we hear someone yell, "We're coming back for you," as they start driving down the hill. We hear them yelling and see them disappear over the top of the hill. We start running toward the bridge. It was the closest, and once you gotten over the bridge to the left, there was a concrete deck with a drop-off to the ramp about 5 feet tall, so that if you got off the bridge and jumped down right away, you'd be at the bottom of the ramp and couldn't be seen from the other side if you ducked down, which is exactly what we did. We hear the car speed back down the hill, and 4 doors open and close as they start screaming and laughing. "Come here, girls, we'll be nice, we just want to play." Most of them took off to the pier, but 2 of them stayed behind, and we could hear bits and pieces of what they were saying. "Where do you think they went?" "I don't know, we'll find them." Sam and I are huddled and freaked out, and once it had been silent near the bridge for a while, we decided to peek out to see if the other 2 had also left so we could sneak back up the hill, or make a break for it somewhere else. We peek over, and there's a guy on the other end of the bridge, and he clearly sees us. "Over here!" he screams to his buddies, and starts running across the bridge to us. We take off toward the development, running around the side of the tennis courts while being chased by 3 of the guys. Only one of them is very close to us, about 30 feet, but the rest were catching up faster than we had liked. We took a quick turn between the 2 houses in the subdivision, and we luckily never saw them from that point on. We got back to our car by walking through the forest preserve incredibly slow, dashing across the roads, terrified out of our minds. We left that night and called our friends that we normally went to the preserve with. From then on out, they insisted on coming with us anytime we went there. This story goes back a few years ago when I was a 17-year-old high school student. Every day, I'd walk the 25 or 30-minute journey to and from school. There was a shortcut I could take home that took some time off of the walk, and as a nature lover, the shortcut was very enjoyable. Whenever I'd walk home alone, I would take this shortcut to enjoy the small amount of forest we have in this mid-sized to moderately busy city I live in. My shortcut was pretty well traveled, and I would occasionally see other people walking from their neighborhood towards the busy streets close by, or other students walking home from my high school or the college. Sometimes there would be no one but me on the path. To give you an idea, the path was definitely not groomed, but it was traveled enough you can make out a path from being trampled over the years. The shortcut started off from the busy road by my high school and went into the low-lying open wooded area with some small ponds. After a few minutes of this, I could veer right up the big hill towards the street parallel to my street. One day, I was walking home from school after staying a bit late for extra help. A few minutes into my shortcut, I noticed a guy standing off the main path a bit, seemingly minding his own business and talking on a cell phone. There was an open backpack sitting on the ground by his feet. Growing up with overprotective parents and in martial arts, I've always been a very cautious person and taken a lot of details, especially being a young girl out walking alone. This wasn't unusual by any means, since the entire low-lying area is traveled and there are numerous paths off the main path leading in different directions. Since it isn't a thick forest, sort of like a free-for-all for walking, Sometimes people would stand off the busy road while waiting for the bus stop close by, not wanting to stand in all the traffic fumes while people sped by during rush hour. The only thing I took caution of was that I had been seeing him there a few times that week, and I had never seen him there before. But oh well, maybe he was just a college student or just moved into the area. This time, walking on the shortcut felt different though, possibly because there was no one else on the path today. But I started to get this bad feeling in my stomach, the one everyone has a hard time describing, but most people know too well. Something was not right. I was already well along my shortcut though, and decided to blame my feelings on being paranoid, which is not uncommon for me. I kept an eye on him as I was walking by, and he continued to talk on his cell phone and didn't seem suspicious, so I continued on my merry way. I must have walked 20 or 25 meters away when the guy stopped talking on his phone, and I felt an even bigger feeling of dread in my gut. I turned around to see him crouched over. The phone was gone, fidgeting around with something, some sort of cloth and brown glass bottle. Before I had a second to register what he was doing, his head shoots up in my direction, and the look on his eyes is a terrifying mix between "I've been caught" and "I'm not stopping now." He drops everything, leaving his stuff behind, and starts sprinting straight for me, cloth in hand. At this point, I'm too far away from the busy road for anyone to see me in the low-lying woodland with this crazy fuck, and I'm way too far away to scream bloody murder. My first instinct in that split-second decision is to run towards my neighborhood. I decided this all as I turned around, throwing my heavy backpack on the ground and sprinting as fast as I could, starting up the hill towards my neighborhood. Judging by appearance, this guy looked like he could break me in two with no effort, and I trusted my flight response more than my fight response. Plus, I didn't know what he had in his hand. All throughout school, I had been the top cross-country and track runner in my entire school. Out of the female and male teams, my running ability had been my savior on a few other let's not meet worthy occasions. But soon into the chase, I knew it wouldn't be enough time. This guy was fast, and I could tell he was slowly gaining on me without even looking back. I finally see some fenced-in backyards up ahead, and hoping people are home from work, I started screaming help as much as I could with my out-of-breath, useless voice. I make a split decision to start jumping fences into people's yards, hoping this guy's hurdling skills are shittier than his running. The first fence throws him off, but by the second one into the next yard, he is on me, and I feel him insanely close to grabbing my leg. I'm freaking out at this point. I see no cars in driveways, no sign of anyone home. The only thing that is keeping me from panicking and wiping out in my exhausted state is thinking that I may not ever be able to see my family or friends again. The next yard belongs to people that I know rather well, including their dog. This dog was huge and an absolute maniac. Usually when the kids were walking to school, they would put him in the backyard instead of their front yard, since he would growl and scare the hell out of the kids while they were walking by. I love animals, so every time we'd walk by, I'd talk calmly enough to him through his menacing, "I'll mess you up" barks. Every time, he'd been slightly less vicious to me, until one day, the nice people who lived there gave me a treat to give him, and after that, the dog was a nice stop on the way to school. The dog's name is Leo. With that next yard, and my newly acquired friend in sight, I had never felt hope like I did in that moment. By some insane stroke of luck, they let him out in the backyard for the afternoon while they were at work. When Leo saw me frantically running toward him, he started wagging his tail, then looked to the guy chasing close behind me and started growling. I thought this would be enough to get the guy to leave me alone, but no, he started to jump over the fence the second after I did, but the dog jumped up, and his teeth came so close to his face that the creep fell backwards into the other yard, straight on his ass. The creep and I stared at each other, out of breath for a few seconds, while the dog was barking and jumping like mad at the fence. Maybe he was assessing if he could take on Leo or not. I prayed the creep didn't have a knife or something. The guy looked angrier than I had ever seen a person, and after a few seconds, got up and started running back down the hill from where we came from. I sat there for a few seconds, in complete shock and couldn't move, until my hero started licking my face. I snapped out of it and ran to the back door and started pounding. They obviously weren't home, or else they probably would have heard what just went down. My house was close, so I jumped the fence and ran the rest of the way home. and called the cops to investigate and try to find the guy. I gave them the best description I could after coming practically face to face with him. The dude's bag was gone, and so was every trace of him. They found my poor backpack in a muddy puddle, and the police told me that they'd keep looking. I never saw the guy again, and I didn't hear anything more about it, and after calling the office a few times, I gave up. They told me during that time they had received sketchy reports, people being stalked, chased, etc., but nothing like mine. Over the last few months, there were a few missing person cases, but in a city like the one I'm from, not the worst, but not the best. You can never connect anything like that for sure. The more I thought about it over the years, the more messed up it was and the more confused I am. First, if he was trying to kidnap me, why didn't he think of any better way to grab and snatch me into the forest before I had the chance to get away from him, or before another trail goer possibly walked by? He didn't appear to have a weapon on him or anything, except that creepy cloth. And what the hell did he have in his hand? A friend thought that it may have been chloroform, but I did research on it, and apparently it's more of a myth that pouring it on a rag and covering a person's face causes them to faint very quickly. Plus, where the hell would you get it anyway? Thanks to him, I've never walked that shortcut anymore, at least without a couple of friends and pepper spray or some sort of other protection. I hope you guys enjoyed that video. I've been reading in the comments lately that some of you have been kind of wanting like an outro to the video so it doesn't kind of abruptly end, and I totally get where you're coming from. I've been debating for a while whether to put something at the end, so I'll work on that. I think it'll definitely probably give something else to the videos besides just, like I said, an abrupt end, and you don't even know when the video ends technically. But besides that, I hope you've been enjoying. I think I uploaded like 3 videos last week, and I'm trying to shoot for 3 more this week. My goal from now on is to get 2 to 3 a week uploaded. I know that's been a goal of mine for a while, but with work and everything, it's just kind of been hard. But I'm kind of to a point now where I'm a little quicker editing, even though I don't have the best equipment. I'm still working on getting a new computer that can handle and edit the videos a little bit better. But I promise I'll try my hardest to get as many videos out a week as possible. And some exciting times coming up here. It's getting ready to be October, so I know that Halloween's coming up, and that's going to make for a bunch of cool Halloween themed videos, whether it's trick-or-treating stories or something else. But kind of on the same topic, if you guys have any creepy Halloween stories, whether it be Halloween party stories, trick-or-treating stories, be sure to send me your stories. You can send it to me just through direct message through YouTube, or I can post an email. I'll go ahead and post an email in the description down below, and you can send it to that, and I'll make a video using your stories if you don't mind, if you have any good ones. Also, I know I've been posting in the comments the past couple of videos about my vlog channel. If you haven't gone and checked that channel out, I got some great stuff planned. I'm going on a big trip at the end of October. Gonna do some cool Halloween horror themed stuff in that trip, and I'm gonna vlog most of it. So if you wanna go and you wanna stay in the loop with that trip and check out, I think I have like 3 videos uploaded right now. So if you want to go check those out and show support and subscribe to that channel, that'd be great. I'll post a link in the comments again. But other than that, I hope you guys have been enjoying my videos lately, and stay tuned for more stuff.